Welcome to National Liberty Alliance's weekly call. Today is Monday, August 25th, 2025. We broadcast live every Monday from 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. Eastern Time. If you're listening over Rumble or YouTube and you would like to ask a question or make a comment, you can go to nationallibertyalliance.org and click on our weekly call for instructions to join us live by phone, app, or browser. If anybody would like to email a question, you can send your questions to questions, it's plural, questions at nationallibertyalliance.org. Please support our business partners. You can find their banners on the right side of the website, of which the proceeds go to support NLA's effort to save our republic. Also, please support NLA by donating $5 a month or more. Click on our donation tab, top right side of our website. Okay, we're going to pick up with our scripture reading where we left off last week. We're in the Gospel of Luke. Let me see if I can get there. Chapter 19. Okay, Luke chapter 19, read by Alexander Scorby.
Chapter 19. And Jesus entered and passed through Jericho. And behold, there was a man named Zacchaeus, which was the chief among the publicans, and he was rich, and could not for the press, because he was little of stature. And he ran before, and climbed up into a sycamore tree to see him, for he was to pass that way. And when Jesus came to the place, he looked up and saw him, and said unto him, Zacchaeus, make haste and come down, for today I must abide at thy house. And he made haste, and came down, and received him joyfully. And when they saw it, they all murmured, saying that he was gone to be guest with a man that is a sinner. And Zacchaeus stood and said unto the Lord, Behold, Lord, the half of my goods I give to the poor. And if I have taken anything from any man by false accusation, I restore him fourfold. And Jesus said unto him, This day is salvation come to this house, for so much as he also is a son of Abraham. For the Son of Man is come to seek and to save that which was lost. And as they heard these things, he added and spake a parable, because he was nigh to Jerusalem, and because they thought that the kingdom of God should immediately appear. He said therefore, A certain nobleman went into a far country to receive for himself a kingdom, and to return. And he called his 10 servants, and delivered them 10 pounds, and said unto them, Occupy till I come. But his citizens hated him, and sent a message after him, saying, We will not have this man to reign over us. And it came to pass that when he was returned, having received the kingdom, then he commanded these servants to be called unto him, to whom he had given the money, that he might know how much every man had gained by trading. Then came the first, saying, Lord, thy pound hath gained 10 pounds. And he said unto him, Well, thou good servant, because thou hast been faithful in a very little, have thou authority over 10 cities. And the second came, saying, Lord, thy pound hath gained 5 pounds. And he said likewise to him, Be thou also over 5 cities. And another came, saying, Lord, behold, here is thy pound, which I have kept laid up in a napkin. For I feared thee, because thou art an austere man. Thou takest up that thou laidst not down, and reapest that thou didst not sow. And he saith unto him, Out of thine own mouth will I judge thee, thou wicked servant. Thou knewest that I was an austere man, taking up that I laid not down, and reaping that I did not sow. Wherefore then gavest not thou my money into the bank, that at my coming I might have required mine own with usury? And he said unto them that stood by, Take from him the pound, and give it to him that hath 10 pounds. And they said unto him, Lord, he hath 10 pounds. For I say unto you, that unto every one which hath shall be given, and from him that hath not, even that he hath shall be taken away from him. But those mine enemies, which would not that I should reign over them, bring hither, and slay them before me. And when he had thus spoken, he went before, ascending up to Jerusalem. And it came to pass, when he was come nigh to Bethphage and Bethany, at the mount called the Mount of Olives, he sent 2 of his disciples, saying, Go ye into the village over against you, in the which at your entering ye shall find a colt tied, whereon yet never man sat. Loose him, and bring him hither. And if he ask you, Why do ye loose him? Thus shall ye say unto him, because the Lord hath need of him. And they that were sent went their way, and found even as he had said unto them. And as they were loosing the colt, the owners thereof said unto them, Why loose ye the colt? And they said, The Lord hath need of him. And they brought him to Jesus, and they cast their garments upon the colt, and they set Jesus thereon. And as he went, they spread their clothes in the way. And when he was come nigh, even now at the descent of the Mount of Olives, the whole multitude of the disciples began to rejoice, and praise God with a loud voice for all the mighty works that they had seen, saying, Blessed be the King that cometh in the name of the Lord, peace in heaven, and glory in the highest. And some of the Pharisees from among the multitude said unto him, Master, rebuke thy disciples. And he answered and said unto them, I tell you that if these should hold their peace, the stones would immediately cry out. And when he was come near, he beheld the city, and wept over it, saying, If thou hadst known, even thou, at least in this thy day, the things which belong unto thy peace. But now they are hid from thine eyes. For the days shall come upon thee, that thine enemies shall cast a trench about thee, and compass thee round, and keep thee in on every side, and shall lay thee even with the ground, and thy children within thee. And they shall not leave in thee one stone upon another, because thou knewest not the time of thy visitation. And he went into the temple, and began to cast out them that sold therein, and them that bought, saying unto them, It is written, My house is the house of prayer, but ye have made it a den of thieves. And he taught daily in the temple. But the chief priests and the scribes and the chief of the people sought to destroy him, and could not find what they might do, for all the people were very attentive to hear him.
Okay, Jan, do we have any questions tonight?
Yes, we have several tonight, John.
Well, before we get started, just want to let everyone know the queue is open, star 6 and a 1 to get into the queue if you're on a phone. And there should be a button there if you're on an app or a browser. But go right ahead, Jan.
Okay, first question. Which is best, trial by jury or jury trial?
Well, they're both the same. This is a trick question here somehow.
Well, it says, could you please discuss? Any additional comment?
Well, the jury trial, again, the trial by jury or jury trial, it's the same thing. But, of course, a jury trial is by the people, which is under common law. The government is not to try you as individuals, like a judge or someone. That is repugnant. To be judged by a servant is repugnant. It's that simple. And natural law sets it up as your peers. They judge you. And 12 is a good number for numerous reasons. Of course, there is a biblical position on that too. 12 witnesses for Christ. So, and if one person just doesn't break, let's say that 11 find a person guilty, and one person just holds out and does not find them guilty. At some point, when they realize they just can't move any further, they need to find that person not guilty. So that's pretty powerful to make sure that someone is not put into jail or whatever the penalty might be when they're not guilty of something. Better a free man go, or better a guilty man go than a free man go into prison. But anyway, the other trial, of course, is really a trial, which is a trial by judge, which you can choose, and that's appealable. The jury trial is not appealable. Once a jury trial makes its decision, it is done. It cannot be overturned. Now, of course, there's always exceptions to that rule, in the sense that if an individual's rights was injured in that trial one way or another, then of course that can be that can be overturned or corrected or whatever the case may be. But as long as nobody's right is injured in that trial, then a jury trial stands. Matter of fact, I heard a case recently where some I forget where I heard about this, and the jury found they only deliberated for 1 hour, and they came in and they found for one individual. It was two individuals in a battle, and the other and the lawyer on the other side is taking an appeal. Well, a jury trial is unappealable. You can't appeal a jury trial. It is the final word. The United States Supreme Court has said that the decision of the jury trial is as if it was a decision by the United States Supreme Court. It cannot be overturned. Now, again, if there is something that was injured in that trial, that could be corrected. But other than that, the penalty stands, whatever it may be. So, but anyway, I guess that's the best I can do on that question. It sounds, again, there's a contradiction there. What's the difference between a jury trial or trial by jury? They're the same thing. But go ahead. Next question.
The next question probably requires that you've read this writ that was submitted to the 5th Appellate Court, California. If not, I'll read it anyway, and you might be able to answer. I recently submitted a writ to the 5th Appellate Court, California. I'm including access to the document for your reference. The incomplete portions were handwritten prior to submission. The writ was just returned to me by the clerk, claiming it had to be submitted on the court's approved form, which they provided. They further state the form had to be signed by my husband and not myself on his behalf. I spoke to the court clerk directly just now, and he states that is in fact the case, regardless of it not being in alignment with constitutional law. He stated I was welcome to resubmit my original document with my argument and ask the court to reconsider. My question is, what do you recommend I do to move this forward in the best way possible with the goal of getting my husband released immediately?
This is a writ of habeas corpus, I believe. I recall having conversations with this person. Does it say habeas corpus or just a writ?
No, it just said a writ. It did not say a habeas corpus.
Yeah, I'm sure it's a habeas corpus. And because I think I recall the case, and we've discussed this matter. It's a difficult one. And on the one hand, to find justice at this point in time, it's not going to happen. I've been thinking about what we can do in the meantime, waiting on what's going to happen on the federal level, because there's a lot of work to be done on the state level. And by the way, for that reason, we're going to need, a lot more donors in order to pursue what we have to pursue on a state level to go after these judges. The best way to deal with this is for people to become educated on, we give a course, Court Access in the Common Law, and people should become educated on the law, and which is really the due process. And you can find that under Education Starts Here, and click on Court Access in the Common Law. And when you click on that, you get some information about that particular course. Unless you get understanding from someplace else, and come to an understanding of the common law. Because we have a lot of work to do in the states. On the federal level, it is perceived and hoped. I've heard different things, and I'm pretty sure that, the administration is kind of on the same page as we are here about the problems with the federal judges. Ultimately, they all have to go. Every single one of them has got to go. Not just the criminals, okay, because the court system is filled with criminals, but those who have continued to hold and the doors closed, to close the doors of justice by preventing anyone from coming in with a writ habeas corpus like this, and coming in with, on a common law, to open a common law court. And those doors are shut. You can't get into those doors. So we have to deal with this on the state level. But anyway, for this particular case, it's a state case, if I recall, and it has to be dealt with, obviously, on the state level. And a denial of writ habeas corpus can be taken into the federal level for a denial of due process. But again, education is necessary for that too. Anybody who is not educated, and you don't have to be really strongly articulate, but you have to understand due process. If you're going to go into a court and try to make battles and take care of your own business, then you need to take a course. But in any event, the course is going to be necessary to really pursue that battle on the federal level. You have to understand, the structure of the federal court, what they can hear, what they can't hear, which generally speaking, in a nutshell, they can only hear situations that is, constitutional. In other words, particularly in our case, a violation of the Bill of Rights, or any of our rights, unalienable rights, so that any kind of a violation of that type. A denial of due process, obviously, is a big violation of a right, and so they can't refuse a writ habeas corpus. Now, there is a process. We put together a writ habeas corpus on how to write one. We were doing some habeas corpuses. We haven't had much success on those at all because courts are too corrupt. They've abrogated the writs of habeas corpuses, just like they've abrogated the First Amendment and the Second Amendment, and really everything else. Ultimately, they don't want you to have any rights. But these courts, all of these bar attorneys and all judges are bar or were bar attorneys, so that's where they learned the law. They are the minions of the New World Order. They are the destruction of America. They're the causes of all of America's woes. And our nation will be as just as our courts are. And right now, our courts are not just at all. So again, we have to fix them. As far as the paperwork and the form, their form really is positioned or written in a way that really it's a request. You go and beg the court for the habeas corpus, and they're going to deny it. But that's what they want you to do, to go to their forms. And you can write an affidavit on behalf of an individual that's incarcerated. If they can't write their own affidavit, and the person who understands and knows all of the situation gets firsthand knowledge from the individual that has been imprisoned, then they can write a habeas corpus as a next friend, and that's acceptable. Did I say I meant an affidavit? I don't know if I said habeas corpus or an affidavit, but anyway, write an affidavit for their next friend. They can also write the paperwork for the habeas corpus, and they don't have to follow the form that they have. But they try to keep everything boxed in, and the forms will help them to box everything in, and they'll reject your work because if you try to change the form and different things. So it's a problem. It's a major, major problem. And the only thing that's going to correct, there's only one thing that's going to correct this problem, and that's the people. We need people in every state, at least one person in every state that can challenge all the judges within that state. I'll be doing that in New York at some point in time in the near future, hopefully. And I'll, people can copy, they will share what I'm doing, copy the work I'm doing. But they still need to understand due process. So anybody willing or wanting to do that for their state to get justices back into their court. And then we'll lay out a plan on how people can move things into federal court, which we've already got paperwork on that also already, which we teach people how to move from a state court into a federal court for cause. And cause is a violation of a right. In this case, again, a right of due process. So, but for this person, it's real tough. I don't think you're going to get anywhere with these people, at least not until federal courts are cleaned up, and then we can start leveraging the state courts to be obedient and start removing those people too. Because, again, a denial of due process is a denial of justice, and a denial of justice is a huge violation. Also, to get rid of these judges and a lot of these people, the resurrection of the original 13th Amendment, which we have already advised, President Trump and his entire administration, and including, of course, Bondi, Attorney General Bondi. They know about the 13th Amendment because we informed them of the original 13th Amendment with proof from many, many states. 13th Amendment, there was an original 13th Amendment. I believe it was 1818 or 1819 when it was finally went through the process. And it disappeared in around 1860 when the, well, maybe a little later than that, but sometime between 1860 and the beginning of the 21st century, because in the 20th century, I mean, beginning of the 20th century, when they replaced that 13th Amendment and another 13th Amendment. And there's a 14th Amendment that came about at the same time, and there was no reason why they couldn't have combined them. There might have been a strategic move to do it that way, and I don't know what that would be for, unless someone was hoping to make some changes in the, I don't know. I would be guessing. I don't know. But the point is that the original 13th Amendment, which was brought forth by our founding fathers, okay, most of them were still alive then and part of the process. Jefferson especially, and so this is what we need to do. This is why the people can save America. Unfortunately, we have a lot of people that have fallen asleep since Trump has become really what people are starting to realize he's fixing things. You know, when I was first involved with this stuff, and goes back into the late 1900s and 1899 or something like that, coming into the 2000s. And then eventually we had the Ron Paul movement, and then we had the Tea Party and Glenn Beck's movement and other things. There was a lot of people involved. They raised their voices. They came out and put up signs. We put signs all over the place. We went onto street corners, did things. We became very, very active. We became trying to get people elected into our districts, and there was a lot of people involved with this, but they all disappeared. Again, I think that the problem is that they think Trump can fix this problem. I got bad news for you. Trump cannot fix this problem. He can prepare things for the fixing, but it's up to the people to finalize that fixing and also to maintain government by consent. Because if the people are not exercising their unalienable right of government by consent by becoming active and supporting us also, but becoming active, supporting your committees of safety in your county, taking control on who goes into office and realizing who needs to be removed by recall, taking control of your school districts within your counties, controlling all local government, making sure they're obedient to the Constitution. Trump can't be around to take care of that. Neither is anyone going to be that's in any office, whether it's on the president and the administration on the federal level or on your state. They're not going to do your work for you, okay? Because these positions really draw a lot of people that have alternative motives in mind. I really truly believe that most politicians are sociopaths. That's my opinion, and they're in it for themselves. Some people get in for good intentions, but they're flipped quite quickly, more often than not. Occasionally, you have a few that hold out. So America is not going to be maintained unless the people decide to maintain it, and we need to take back the courts. And this person here, with this habeas corpus, it could be you. And you trying to get a habeas corpus for your spouse or for yourself, and you just can't get it, the right to be heard. And if they can't come up with the evidence, you're dismissed, or if you were falsely imprisoned, they have to release you, which I believe is the case with this person. That person was falsely imprisoned and has been in prison for quite some time. I think they were probably guilty. Matter of fact, I know they were because they confessed to it, but nevertheless. Okay, in any event, what's the next question, Jim?
Okay, the next question is about the Second Amendment of the U.S. Constitution. Why is it that our rights are contained within the Bill of Rights and we can utilize all of them except for the first part of the Second Amendment, which states, a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state. What are we waiting for? It is obvious that our government is not going to monitor themselves.
Well, look, when I first got involved with this, it took a while before I realized how serious the problem is, or was, or still is, in our government. And it became to the point where I realized that unless something like a miracle took place, the right person got in the right place with the right group of people to do the right things and to be able to survive it, okay, I thought the same thing, that the only solution to this problem was the Second Amendment. And I know many people who felt the same way. And matter of fact, one of the big things during a lot of these movements, like the Tea Party movement, the Ron Paul movement, we'd get together and talk about things on survival and canning food and finding food in the woods, all kinds of things. And, we were learning about those things as we were learning about the problems of the government. And we're also making sure we were getting our weapons and ammunition and being prepared and storing up food. I mean, that was a big movement, at least in my neighborhood it was, and met a lot of people online, traveled all over the state of New York, and met many, many, many people who were doing the same thing. So that seemed to be that was going to happen. Of course, we got to wait for them to actually, really come out after us to exercise that Second Amendment right. But now that I know in 2017, when Trump became elected for president and finally got into that office, and the words he said, I knew that he was the solution, and I knew that he was probably one of the very few people in the world that could do anything about it. Maybe the only one. He's uniquely qualified in so many different ways, and it is proven to be true. So we don't have to go that route. We don't have to exercise our Second Amendment right to fix things. But that doesn't mean we don't exercise our Second Amendment right to build militias. We need to build the unorganized militia. We need to rebuild, if there doesn't exist, or add to the organized militia. We do have a plan for that. It's written up. It's on our page on the Starter Committee of Safety. You'll find some things in our handbooks down there, and handbooks, videos, and tools. And we have to really take things back. Only the people can save America. Donald Trump can only set the stage to give it back to us, but the people have to receive it. And if the people aren't willing to receive it, then you don't have liberty. We're going to lose liberty. We're going to lose our Constitution. It's only a matter of time. Because people are drawn, sociopaths and psychopaths are drawn to power. And what greater power than the President of the United States and various other positions within our government? It's very, they accumulate a lot of power there. And they make a lot of money. They all seem to become millionaires. That's interesting too, huh? So anyway, I guess that's all I have to say. There's no need for the Second Amendment at this point in time. And messages have already been sent out to the people that really were involved with this, that, the military will take care of this. As a matter of fact, I think that's what's happening right now. I think the stage is being set right now with Trump he cleaned up Washington, D.C., and now he's focusing in on a lot of these blue cities, and to try to bring them back under control, and get rid of crime. But I think there's a lot more going on while that is happening. I think other things are going to be happening. But we'll see what happens as time goes. Okay, any other questions?
No, John, that was the last one.
Okay. All right, well, we have an open queue here. Anybody wants to get into the queue? We do have a few people in the queue right now, so we'll take some questions. Well, before we start taking the questions, this only take a couple of minutes, because we've spoken about this a few times. Under our Welcome tab here, we put under Up-to-Date News, I put a couple of other links up here of news that I get, that I listen to. And sometimes I talk to people, and they really don't know what's going on. we have to listen to the right people, to the right places. Truth is self-evident. That's a biblical principle. It's also reported in our Declaration of Independence. Thomas Jefferson reported that truth is self-evident. So it only takes time to listen to an individual or individuals. And as time goes on, you'll see the consistency or you'll see the contradictions, one or the other. And as long as you see the consistencies and the things keep coming to pass, then, hey, you got a good source of information. The best, in my opinion, what I don't miss at all, I never miss X22 report, because I think that is one of the best places to get great information. I have limited time, and I'm sure a lot of people have limited time to listen to news. This report is usually around an hour long. I also tried to listen to And We Know, which that's second on my list. Again, great information, great perspective, and the SGT report. Now, a couple of individuals I found over the past 6 months or so that are pretty good, and that's Matt Morse TV and RJ Talks. What I like about these two guys is they really give you the hardcore news in a 15-minute, they're only about 15 minutes long, and they give you all the major points that have taken place for the day. They're pretty packed up, and they give you a lot of great information. Matt Morse also does a longer thing, which he gets into more details of the news. If you have the time to listen to that, that's fine. I don't, so I only listen to, the highlights to these two guys. Promethean Updates is good also. This is really good inside news, especially going back into the past, particularly on how things came to be, how they are today. We cover a lot of that in our civics course. If people haven't taken our civics course, you might want to take our civics course, because if you want to know how we got to here, to where we're at, and how serious it has been, and how they had taken over our nation, well, we do cover that in our civics course. And also, the Promethean Updates, if I'm pronouncing that right, I'm pretty sure I am, they cover a lot of the older stuff tying into what's happening today. They know what's going on. There's two women that have been involved with this going back into the 70s. And so they had a lot of inside information, and were involved with people who were digging pretty deep as things what was going on, going back into the 70s, the late 70s, 80s, 90s, all the way up until today. So again, great news. Stephen Gardner's pretty good. Benny's show pretty good also. He's pretty short usually. Stephen Gardner is usually 45 minutes to an hour. If I get time, I'll listen. Crossroads is usually pretty long too. If I have time, I'll listen. Front Page is pretty good. He's good for some updates and giving the headlines, usually in the beginning, and then gets into more deep parts of the information. He's not too long, and he's good too. And of course, everybody knows Joe Rogan, Tucker Carlson, Donald Trump. And I got up here Dr. Berg, because if you have a health problem, that's the guy to go see. It's like miracles that this guy performs through natural cures. So anyway, I did want to cover that. We've spoken about this past a few times. I've been mentioning a few times I'd get some of these new people up there. I did. So if you want good news, that's where you're going to get it. Okay, we'll take our first call here in our queue. Looks like Sean. What state you're from? You got the mic.
Hi, John. It's Sean, California, the one with the writ of habeas corpus.
Right, I recognize your voice.
Okay. And I forgot when I emailed my question that doesn't mean that I get to communicate, so that's why I jumped in the queue. But so thank you for remembering all the facts about the case. You are correct in everything that you said. I appreciate that. And so at this point, should I just, because the writ, this is not the first writ I have filed, we have filed, and they have been denied in various courts at the regular, like, superior court level. And this was my first attempt at going to the appellate court. But should I just go to the federal level since it has already been denied at the
Well, the federal level is corrupt also. They maintain the status quo also. They're
Mm-hmm.
not rich habeas corpus either because they're all corrupt. And the only salvation of this is when Trump removes these judges. I do believe he's going to remove them all. I hope he removes them all.
Yeah, that's the word.
But the thing is, that's when we have to really become active to start getting into the courts, to test the courts, to make sure that they have moved us over to courts of justice, that they've opened the doors of justice again in our courts,
Mm-hmm.
and to back off,
Mm-hmm.
okay? Back off. I got a paper from somebody recently, and they asked me some questions. The person's a lawyer, and asked me for what I thought about some. I haven't read through it all, but it's a PDF. Let me see what it's called. Hold on a minute. Okay, the jurisdiction of the United States Court. The question is what is a court of record? Okay. Now I know this person who asked me this question pretty much knows what a court of record is, I think, but this is confusing, all this stuff that's written up here. I haven't gone through it all. I just breezed through it, but I will go through this and read this and respond back and give my thoughts and ideas concerning, this particular paper and be very specific on a court of records. But to be as specific as possible, court of record is a court that proceeds according to the common law. That's what a court of record is, okay? Anything else is not a court of record. Do the courts keep records? Yeah, they keep records. Therefore, they say, they're courts of record. No, that's not what a court of record is. And we can get into further discussions of that maybe if we want. But I'm going to read through this and respond to a lot of this and see once. And this is, I believe, coming from the United States Supreme Court. Yeah, well, it may not be. This is a research paper, Westlaw, AI, assisted research. That's a big joke there, huh? Anyway, of course, they're only going to really pour out the poison that they've been taught anyway, so it doesn't really matter. AI is going to be the destruction of mankind. There's no doubt in my mind. The genie is out of the bottle. I don't know if we can put it back in, but it is going to be the destruction of mankind. And I was listening to some other people, authors who have written books, well-known people, as a matter of fact, highly esteemed, and written very good books, and so on and so forth. And they were talking about this also, and they have the same opinion I've got, and others that when you don't have a writer, when you write, and you're an author and you write books, you really get to know the information that you're writing about. You're researching, you're putting together, you're articulating it, you're putting it in order, you're restructuring it. You spend a lot of time, I spent years on my book, so I spent a lot of time on that, and therefore I'm able to respond to questions and answer people's questions and come up with a lot of different ideas and expound a lot on the research and what our founding fathers did and who we are as a people, how this nation was created, and so on and so on and so on. I have that knowledge only because I've spent a lot of time with it. A person sits down, they read the book, they get, if you could read the book in a few hours, then you've gotten a decade worth of knowledge, okay, or years of knowledge accumulated, delivered in a few hours. Now, are you going to articulate all those things? Well, unless you're studying it, you're probably not. You'll pull up a few things here or there. But at least it'll be in your brain. The framework of your brain will be properly put together in order to deal with and understand and retrieve information on the subject matter, whatever it may be. Well, when AI is, you're not going to have people reading books no more. You're going to have AI writing books. You're going to give some instructions to AI and have them write the book, and that's it. So you don't even have experts. I mean, only, if you're a doctor, for instance, you live, eat, and breathe, and sleep, the profession when you go into it. And that's for a lot of years, especially like if you're a surgeon, you got a real heavy specialty. You really are so dove deep into this subject matter, whatever it is that you're studying, that you can do it in your sleep, and it rolls out of your mouth, and procedures are procedures. Go forward. Well, if we don't have those things, well, AI, I guess, will do the operations. We'll have AI doctors. We'll have AI. You won't have actors no more. We'll have AI put the actors out there, put everything. And I'm going to tell you, I am confused, very confused. Just the last couple of days, looking at some documentaries, looking at some different things on YouTube and a few other places. I don't know what's real no more. I really don't know what's real anymore. It's my resources, of course, is solid, but when you're just getting information off the web, I don't know whether it's real or not. I had a documentary. It was a 2-part documentary. I followed it 2 hours long. Invested a lot of time. To invest 2 hours into something for me, it's hard to do outside of what I do. But I did because I was interested in the individuals that were being spoken and what was happening. And the whole thing was just AI generated of fraud. It wasn't true. And I had spent 2 hours, and it was a lesson that I learned that I don't know what to believe online. I just don't know. We're entering into a world, into a problem, into a time. We can't survive it. I can't see any way man can survive it. And I can't see any way to put it back into the box. I spend time helping other people. I make phone calls, different places, different things, different agencies, and medical field, talking, trying to set things up for other people, and I spent so much time with AI. It is so sickening and nauseating, and it's like playing a chess game on a phone. Try to figure which button I'm going to push outside of what I'm looking for that I'll get a person on the end of the line. It just goes on and on and on to AI, moving you here, moving you there. And and they can only answer the simplest questions. They can't answer a complex question. So it's a real big problem. And I don't know how we're going to survive it. I really don't know. I don't think we can. All right. Anyway, Sean, you got a final thing, or we'll move on, or what?
Just to be clear, understanding, yes, the courts are corrupt. In my right, would it be best if things were perfect, would I just move this into federal court? Or
if things were perfect, it would work in state court, but they're not perfect, and they're not perfect in federal court. I would wait until, look, the big hammer is about to drop. Okay?
Yeah.
The big arrest that everybody's whining and complaining about, they don't understand. Look at this, things take time. And you gotta put it out slowly. The people have to digest it because there's still a lot of people still asleep.
Right.
And they're being woken up. I mean, they really are being woken up now. And once the hammer really drops, there's going to be such a flood of information, arrest, movements, military move, all kinds of things. Whatever the timing is, I have no idea, but it's close, in my opinion. And there's a lot of hints that were given out around this time by Q and X22 will cover a lot of those things, and so do others, and will cover it in a few other places. But once all that stuff happens and the courts get cleaned up on the federal level, that's when you can move it to the federal courts for courts. And that, I think, I strongly suspect that we're going to be in pretty good shape by spring. It's a guess, but I do think, I don't think it's, Trump has got to move. He is moving. He's moving at lightning speed, in my opinion, anyway, because these are big things. JFK could not deal with this problem. Reagan couldn't deal with this problem. I didn't think anyone would be able to deal with this problem. But I also, of course, when Trump got in and he did his inauguration speech, and being a New Yorker, brought up in New York City, I knew Trump anyway, not personally, of course, but everybody in New York City knew Trump. He was a real mover and shaker, succeeded at everything. He survived so many different things. And I always, as soon as I heard that, I did believe that we got someone that's going to fix this problem. And there are other reasons I think that's going to be true also. But anyway, I think you just got to wait till the federal courts are back, maybe by next spring.
Okie dokie.
could try the federal courts. Who knows? Maybe you'll get through to them. I mean, it doesn't hurt to try.
Okay.
But what I would say is get a proper education on this. If you're really going to try to handle this, you know, I don't know if you've taken our course. If you haven't, you should take our course to
I
understand.
haven't taken the course, but I have used your documents, and then I also searched a lot of other tutorials, if you will, and I found a really good one, and I can't think of his name, but at the end of his tutorial, he actually tells people to go back and take your course. Winningham or something like that, maybe. I can't think of his name, but he's been around a long time. Anyway, I'll let you get going.
What you have to understand is due process. I also wrote a book, Understanding the Federal Courts. Mm-hmm. I mean, you know, it's a pretty inexpensive book. It's almost a handbook, but it's a little bigger than a handbook. Let me see. Books by John DeRash here. Understanding the Federal Courts.
Okay.
This is something you're definitely going to want to read and understand what's going on, how these courts are put together. Also, you know, you could take the course, which I think is the best thing to do, but in worst case, you court access in the common law book that I wrote, so that's about too. I suggested to the people who are taking the courses to get the book also, because it is very helpful, and it's filled with a lot of forms. You know, they have a lot of good forms. You know, you have to use some common sense on this. They got forms for everything. The courts do. And in most cases, they're excellent. They work. They're fine. You know, sometimes I'll take forms and I'll tweak them a little bit, change them around. They may look like they're forms, but I may make them my own. And there's some certain paperwork that I've totally turned around and twisted to you know, to be more just and common sense, in opposed to their restrictive forms that restricts you all, you know, your movement. Like for this situation, they want you to come begging them and pleading to them, oh please, let me have a habeas corpus, only for them to just tell you no, take a hike.
Well, over the past few years, I've used your form. I've gotten the forms off of your website. I used those one time. I used their forms one time, and this time I went solo and did my own thing based on a compilation of all the tutorials that I had read. But if you would, I did send the link to the document. If you have, you know, 5 minutes to give it a look and give me some feedback, if you think it was, you know, crap or not or what, I would appreciate it.
All right, I'll see if I can find the time. You know, I'm really, really busy, and time is really tough on me, you know, tough.
Yes,
tough.
I know.
And I got personal things in my life that I help people with that I know and that have some serious problems and situations, and, you know, so that takes up my time too.
Well, if you feel led, I'd appreciate it. It's very short.
Okay. All right.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Have a good night.
You too. Okay, we'll take our next caller. And by the way, anybody wants to get into the queue, *601 if you're on a phone. Should be a button there if you're on an app or a browser. We'll take our next caller. It's a wireless caller. Give us your first name and state, 714 area. 714 area code, wireless caller. You've been unmuted.
Hello?
Yep. Yeah, what's your first name and state?
Yeah, hi. I'm out here in Huntington Beach, California. My name is Katya. I'm actually...
Get a little closer to the mic on your phone because you're a little hard to hear, but go ahead.
Oh, okay. Let me do it this way.
Yeah,
How about that? Does that work for you?
Oh, that's a lot better, yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Yeah, I'm Katya. I've actually spoken to you guys before, and I followed your government by consent class. My question is this. I have a due process problem with a levy that the IRS ran off and did against an employer that basically is a life insurance company. And they basically sent a levy notice to them, obviously without due process. I never received the notice. My question to you is, even though that was served, I've already responded to the employer basically saying, hey, you have to have a notice of seizure and you're a party to conversion, right?
Well, they have to have a notice of claim, and they also have to have fiduciary authority. There's two forms, Form 56 and Form 4490, I believe those are the two forms. I know I used to search for them. You can put them into your search bar, Form 4490. It's an IRS form. I think recently they've kind of removed that, let's see, but we do have it up on our website anyway. Well, let's see if it's still available. Form 4490. Form 4490. Well, let's do Form 56 because I think that's the one you really wanted to get. Okay.
So you said to file it against them? I'm confused.
Well, no. What you have to demand, the Form 56 is they have to produce authority over you in order to come after you. Okay, even though it's a business, they still have to have that authority, and they have to produce that authority, and that authority has to be produced under a sworn statement. It's an affidavit form. And if they have a claim against someone, when they come out to do a lien, they do what's called a notice of lien. Okay,
right,
which is not a lien. A notice of lien is not a lien. It's just a notice of a lien. Nothing.
Correct.
Well, all you have to do is go down to the federal court that's your district that you live in, the federal court district.
Mm-hmm.
So you go down to the federal court and you go down into the records and you ask for a copy of the file on that lien. They will come back and say there is no lien because they don't file it. So what happens? This whole thing is such a con job, and it's so. It really is just evil. What they do is they come in and they'll serve it and they'll file it in the county on the county record, and then they'll serve it on to you, and it's a notice of lien. It's not a lien, okay? So just the fact that that in itself is fraud. Filing that a lien, when they file the notice of lien at the county, they're telling the county. The county records now, they're telling the county clerk that there is a lien on the federal court, on the court record. They don't get a copy of that lien, but they just get the notice that it exists. Well, first of all, you go down there and you discover it doesn't exist. That's number one. Number two, you get the Form 4490 and you get the Form 56.
Okay.
Form 56 is an IRS Form 56. It is the fiduciary authority relationship, and the 4490 is a proof of claim. They're both affidavit forms. In order for a lien to exist, that's what has to be filled out, those two forms. So then you do an affidavit. You go down and you make a sworn affidavit. If you can get someone to be a witness with you and they do an affidavit too, that's good too. You go down to the court. You find the fact that it doesn't there. You can ask for the record. They won't give it to you, but you can ask, well, could you write something up saying it doesn't exist? They won't do that. But you could try. But in any event, you're going to do an affidavit. They're doing a certain date, a certain time. You went down to the courthouse located at blah, 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 blah. You spoke to the clerk whose name is blah, 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 blah. And they informed you that no lien exists, and therefore a fraudulent notice of lien was filed within the county, blah, 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 blah. This is an affidavit that you do. And then in that, then you have a cover letter on that with these two forms attached with your affidavit, and you want to send it to them and tell them that, look, you need these forms do not exist. Please fill out the forms so I know what the proof of claim actually is and by what authority you act. You're not going to...
Yeah, which they have none.
What'll happen, look, I have been dancing with the IRS since 1999. Okay, and I've just been ahead of them, just the skin of my teeth. I mean, just been ahead of them, and then I got some real power when I started to understand this stuff. Okay, that's how they're going to go bother someone else. All right, because they can't produce what you want, and you could take them into court at that point, and you have to sue them before they sue you. If you think that, and I did that already when I knew that they were going to lien everything that I had, I immediately went down and sued them personally. And took them into the federal court, tied them up. And that's when I did that, that is when, during that process, is when I discovered the Form 56 and the 4490. And I was able to go into the courts to make the point, and I had the forms with me. I didn't see any of this. There's the Form 46 and the 4490. And there were some other things that I learned about the process. And what happened in that case was the judge gave me, I was supposed to respond to something, and I was going to put everything that I had said in the court in my response. And he gave me, 3 weeks, 4 weeks. And I said, no, I'll get it to you in a couple of days. Within that week, before I even had a chance to respond, I got a letter from the IRS with a release of lien, an apology letter, and it said that I wasn't liable for paid taxes during that time period. Now, they haven't stopped bothering me, and we still do dance. We've been doing it for over 25 years now, and they're about ready to go away anyway. The federal
and I know that. Well, what ended up happening is two things. One, I amended a return when I understood, the system better, of course. I filed a zero return based on Pete Hendrickson's understanding of the system. I amended the return. Of course, the IRS took it upon themselves to do their own assessment. And then they basically, I did sue them. I challenged jurisdiction a long time ago. They left me alone for a couple of years, and then they've come back to harass me again. And lo and behold, I don't know if either the mailman here didn't deliver the notice, but regardless, I never got it. So due process was failed from my perspective. And then the additional kicker is that one of the liabilities that they're reporting has identity theft, which I've already sent them an affidavit form for both the state and for the IRS saying, hey, this is identity theft, and I don't know what you're talking about. Provide proof, signed under penalty of perjury, which they will never do. So state basically settled the tax year based on that method, no problem. Years later, they said, oh, the IRS says you owe this money. Now they've sent me a notice of intent to lien as well.
And I think on that real quick.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Do you have any experience in the courts, particularly the federal courts? Or do you?
I mean, I had sufficient understanding of how to file the challenge of jurisdiction based on the understanding that I received and education that I received from you. That's how I took it. As far as the federal court, no, I don't have enough experience, but I'm assuming that my initial reaction was to go back again to challenge jurisdiction, but then I thought further that I should hold them accountable for the havoc they've created. So that's
this is what you might want to do. I went and I filed when I filed a lawsuit against the agents that came knocking on my door, and also the goodness, I forget what title it is, the lead individual for the IRS, for the commissioner, maybe a commissioner, I don't know.
Yeah, right.
But anyway, I sued that individual, and I sued all of the agents that came knocking on my door. And what I did is I sued them in state court. Now, I know this is a federal situation.
Right.
I did it for two reasons. Number one, it was cheaper for me to file a case in the state court, and I knew they were going to move it to the federal court. So, so I file in New York. There's two different papers that you file when you open a case, and this is the way it's done everywhere. One, you go get yourself an index number, and that opens up the process for the filings and the arguments and going back and forth. The other one is an RJI, which is a request for judicial, I call it interference, judicial interference, which is a request for judicial, what is it? It's a request for judicial, what's the I for? Well, again, for me, it's interference.
Okay.
So that costs more money, so I just filed the one. So I saved money. I was able to file a case for $200 instead of, I think it was $410 to go to the federal court. So the reason I did it, a couple of reasons. Number one, I wanted to stretch things out. Okay, I filed right away because they knocked on my door. They gave me a lien notice that they intend to lien. They have to give you that 10-day notice that they intend to do it. I think it's a 10-day notice. And if they gave that notice, which is usually verbal, with a notice of lien, well, then you better move on it quick because they're going to start leaning things, and to unlean things is going to be a little difficult. So once you file a court case, that freezes them up from going forward for a leaning. So I stopped them from the lien. That's number one. They moved me into federal court, okay? And things took a little time. So time is valuable, and you're trying to stretch things out, trying to get more information. You're trying to school yourself, and so on and so forth. You write your paper, so on and so forth. So that's when at that point, then they moved it into federal court, and they go through all kinds of different things and exercises, and then I responded with my paperwork and then the knowledge I had on the Form 56 and the 4490, and it blew the whole case out of water. That was it. So I would say that's the route to go, because they can't give you those papers, and you get them stuck in the court because now. They're not. When you sue somebody, you see, they're coming out after you, and they want to get you into the court to begin with. All right.
Right.
So if you sue them beforehand, they got one of two things to do. They can try to file papers to have you thrown out of the court, maybe for not serving them correctly. All kinds of stupid things. And the judges go along with it, even when it's not true. I got a case right now going on that's the way. It's a big game that they keep playing.
Right.
Couldn't get this way, now they can try me that way. But in any event, once you get into that court, they got those and of course they want to get you into the court. They want to move you into the federal court. Okay. Right. So I opened up a court of record. Okay, that's one thing. Now they moved me over into the what do you call a court? The tax court. There was no such thing as a tax court, but every federal courthouse has a room that is available for tax foreclosures, dealing with taxes, the IRS, and they come in. They actually, in fact, they rent the room, okay, and then they rent to a judge to come in to be a judge, and they get a stipend, and they get extra money if they get a guilty thing on. If they find the person guilty. This whole thing is so horrible and evil. It's hard to even believe that they've set this up this way and that it exists. I'm telling you, it exists. And so anyway, the thing is they move you into that court. That's fine. I was getting ready to move it out of the out of the tax court into the federal court, which would expose the truth on that situation and what they've done and part of the fraud. But I didn't have to move to that point. It would just been another argument. But as soon as I came with that 4490 and the 56, boy, that was like dynamite. That blew their case right up. They just wanted to get out of that.
Okay. All right. Then I'll proceed in that direction. And do you think I'm able to use that as well for the state? Because basically number one, they accepted this stupid return, playing these idiotic games with them that you have to put a return when we're not really liable for these taxes. We're not creating excise tax, impost tax, and none of this stuff, right? So, but they play these stupid games.
If you're dealing with an IRS lien, okay, and you just wanted to stretch it out with time and maybe pay a little cheaper to get into the courts, it sucks that we have to give anything to get into the court.
Right.
We pay for the building, we pay for the salaries of the people, we pay the judge's salary, we pay for all the paperwork and the printing and the electricity and all of the clerks, and we pay for everything. Why do we have to pay to go in? The money to get into the courts, way back when, and I don't know how far back this goes, that was for fictions to use the court. In other words, corporations.
Right.
So if fiction wanted to use the court, they had to pay that fee. And eventually they moved it over to the people because they call us fiction also, the cap, the letters and all that around with. But the thing is, though, you want to move on it. You want to get into the court. You want to make the point on the 4490 and the Form 56. Where is it? I get a letter from these people from time to time. It's the same old thing. I don't know. Maybe a different agent picks it up and they try and money off me, and they play other games that they turned $100 into $200,000 over a period of a year or two.
Yes.
My wife, after my son.
Yeah, that's exactly where I'm at. I'm like 120,000, some ridiculous, and I just laughed. I said, "Hey, try collecting. Good luck."
Here's the other thing, especially for people who have problems with the IRS: do not ever let a letter go by. They're building evidence, and they're getting you to agree with them. You acquiesce when you don't respond. I always respond in this way. They'll send me a letter. They say, I owe so much money, so on and so forth. And I'll send a letter and say, look, I'm a taxpayer. I believe in following the law. I have no clue on where you're coming up with these numbers. Please advise me on how you come up with these numbers, and please fill out the forms attached, 4490 and Form 56. You send it out to them, and you'll get a letter back after about 60 days or 90 days. You'll get a letter back saying, hey, we're still researching and looking into this thing. It's going to take us another 90 days or whatever, and we'll get back to you. And then they just disappear. Okay, then they don't bother you no more. And then a year or two later, you get back. They go through the same thing again. I guess some other agent picks me up off the screen and to try, whatever the case. I don't know what's going on.
Right.
But
And
anyway,
can I use those forms for the state as well, or the equivalent? They must have.
Well, yes, absolutely. Look, if anybody has a claim against you, they have to have an affidavit of claim. Now, there may be an affidavit of claim for the state. I've never looked into that. I'm sure that exists. If not, you can use the form.
I will
the Form 4490 and the Form 56 on any agency, because the federal court system overshadows the states anyway.
Okay, perfect. I will do that.
Really is interchangeable to a certain degree.
Okay, and on a similar topic, just out of your opinion, when for example you hold a license like a life insurance license, that's what I hold here in the state of California.
Just a life insurance.
To sell life insurance, right? So when you have these licenses, are you basically, because you're receiving a license, are you engaging at this point in a privilege from their perspective? Are you becoming a taxpayer from their perspective, or does it hold true still that this is private sector and contract, and it's an independent contracting agreement?
Well, again, no matter what it is, first of all, you fall under certain regulations. When you get into a certain business, and if you're selling life insurance, if you're selling it within the state, then the state is, but if you're going interstate, then the Fed's involved with that too. So you have to follow whatever the regulations are. We did give them the authority, regulations to control commerce and whatever it is. That's commerce.
Right.
And so all that exists. But nevertheless, with that said, okay, they still have to deal, even with a corporation or a business, a DBA, whatever, they still have to deal with the Form 4490 and the Form 56. Produce the claim. If you have a proof of claim on me, look, I want to fix this problem as much as you guys do. You just a bunch of bullshit because, again, you're just giving back to them what they're doing to you, and you're saying, I'm going to pay, I'll take care of this. Just show me how I owe it, because I don't know anything about it. This is a mystery to me.
Perfect. I like that. I like the approach. I thank you very much for the guidance here. And and just in passing here, I heard your previous conversation, John. Are you engaging in a class of how to operate through the federal court system? Do I understand that correctly? Because that's very important.
Well, operating in the federal courts is no different than going through the state courts. All systems are the same. Due process the same. Yeah, they got a few different things here or there in forms maybe, but you can make your own forms. You don't have to use their forms. It's good to use their forms because, everybody understands them. All the lawyers are using them. There is it's just what would you call it, consistency, but you can change the forms a little bit or be radical and make a whole new form if you're doing something really radical. But the thing is, court of record, that's the key. A court of record is the same thing whether it's in a federal court or a state court. A court of record is a court of record. Now, in a federal court, they only deal with constitutional issues. So, truly speaking, your problems are mostly in the state courts. Now, if the IRS is coming out, then they have the tax court. And and again, that's not a constitutional issue because, there is no income tax, no direct tax is very clear. You can try to make that argument. The judge, I know a guy who went down to make that argument, and I went down to visit to see what was going on. And matter of fact, when I went to court on my case, he was before me, and I was sitting and listening. And he made a good case, the judges, looking, okay, all right, yeah, go ahead, yeah, fine. And but at the end of the day, at the end of the case, it didn't amount to hill of beans. They don't care about the Constitution. It doesn't apply to them. They're outside of it. This is corporatism. They know it's corporatism. I know it's corporatism. People don't know it's corporatism, and they just get beat to hell in these courts.
So you just have to beat them with their own game, basically, is what you're saying.
Yeah, and when you find something that works, hey,
Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you very much, John. Thank you for your help there.
All right, thanks for the call. Okay, we'll take our next caller here. It's Anonymous. What's your first name and state? Anonymous. You got the mic. You've been unmuted. First name and state. You're unmuted.
I'm sorry. I was muted. My name's Elizabeth. I'm in Arizona. I want to first of all make amends. Last week I got very upset, and I just had to get off the call. So I hope you can forgive me. I appreciate your work and your caring. I'm just kind of a wild wheel out here. So I'd like to just shift the subject for a moment, if I may. I'm in a situation where I discovered that I was being denied due process in the situation, and I'm going to try and not discuss the situation because it goes on and on and on and on and on. So, but I keep hearing this statute of limitations, and then everybody wants to settle. They want to go to arbitration, and it's like, no, that's not going to cut it. And so these lawyers don't even want to talk to me, and so and then I started noticing how President Trump. This was last year when President Trump was getting, really abused in the court in New York, and it clicked. It's like he's showing us how the judicial system it's falling down, and then I've noticed watching some of the trials that are provided, on YouTube, the live trials, and noticing how the judges are very cavalier, and they say, well, we're not going to have a recorder in here. The jury will just have to take good notes and that kind of stuff, and all this slippage. And so I had this one lawyer on the phone regarding a contract that is part of this story, and he ended up, it was a mess, and he was talking about statutes of limitations, and it's impossible. Statute of limitations, I mean, I have professionals who've been helping me. A lot of them don't show up, or they don't file a report, and it takes 2 or 3 months for them to come. And it's like, well, this just really messes up anything about statute of limitations. And so in common law, I can't believe
why that is, right? You know why they fail to show up and take.
Well, it looks deliberate, but it looks.
They got a phone call from the judge or the judge's clerk. That's why.
Oh, well, that doesn't surprise me out here at all. Yeah, I mean, but
something. This thing is so corrupt. It is so corrupt that the judge will actually pull a lawyer into a room and say, look, you're not going to bring this up. You're not going to bring that up. This evidence they're trying to get in, we're not going to allow that. Okay? Well, they'll actually have that.
Why don't they just walk? Why don't they just say, fine, I don't want any part of this. They don't do that. They want to stay, and so it perpetuates it. And so my question is, like common law, I don't see how. I'm just learning things. Some of it's very common sense, but I don't see how statute of limitations is a good thing at all.
Common sense is common law. It doesn't get any more difficult than that with an eye on just restitution. That's what common law is. It doesn't get. There are so many maxims of common law. There are books out there. We have a book that you can get online that you can download for free. Common law maxims of common law, and many, many, many more to be discovered. Again, it goes to common sense. That's what I like about Trump. He uses that word often, so he understands, and he should be able to understand what's going on in the courts a little better. 'But when it comes to the statute of limitation, okay, what you have to understand, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, 50 years, 60 years, 70 years, 80 years, 90 years, 100 years, 200 years, 300 years, 400 years, 500 years, 600 years, 700 years, 800 years, 900 years, 1000 years, 2000 years, 3000 years, 4000 years, 5000 years, 6000 years, 7000 years, 8000 years, 9000 years, 100 years, 200 years, 300 years, 400 years, 500 years, 600 years, 700 years, 800 years, 900 years, 1000 years, 2000 years, 3000 years, 4000 years, 5000 years, 6000 years, 7000 years, 8000 years, 9000 years, 100 years, 200 years, 3 there is no such thing as statutes of limitation under the law. It doesn't exist. The only thing that will limit your case over time is the erosion of the evidence. That's the only thing that will limit it, okay? Maybe people die, things are lost, whatever the case may be, okay? That's the only thing that would limit your case. But as long as you have the facts, and you can bring a case in any time. And if you've been injured by the government and you didn't get due process or whatever the case may be, and you discover it 20 years later, well, it's as good as new. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
You have the evidence. You have records.
Right.
Okay. That's number one. The other thing. Okay. Statutes of limitations. I haven't really thought this out. I don't think it would even stand in equity. Okay. Now, equity is legislative law, and legislative law is applied only upon the people who are involved with commercial activity, whether it be in the state or interstate on the federal level then. Also government agencies, okay, they write, equity is written for them. But even equity was under the rules of common law. When they brought the court rules in, okay, in 1930, what is it, 1930, I know in 38 is when they actually got 1934, I believe it was. The Rules Enabling Act of 1934, okay, which Congress gave the power and the authority, which, how can they give them power and authority? How can one branch of government give another branch of government power and authority? They can't do that.
No.
Okay, but they did. They gave them the power and the authority to write their own rules and thereby nullify the common law rules. Common law rules are common sense, okay? Maxims at law. And so even equity, until they did that, was under the common law rules. So even in equity, I don't believe statutes of limitations could even exist. Now, the other thing is evidence. They also have rules of evidence, which came under the rules, with all their rules. They also have rules of evidence, okay? And these judges will throw out evidence under common law. That's not permitted. It doesn't matter if you got evidence, and you may think it's great evidence, and they may think it's horrible evidence. It doesn't matter. It comes into the court because that's what you're doing. You're bringing it in. You're making your case. Okay? They cannot deny evidence, but they do. They deny evidence all the time. Okay? So it's a major problem. Major problem. So the only thing, again, is we're waiting for the federal courts to get cleansed. And then then we can go into use the federal courts to protect us in the state courts and start to sue these judges in the state courts.
Yeah, they're not above me.
Right. They're the servant. They are the servant.
Yeah. So
how can a servant judge a master? You see, we're sovereign. They're not sovereign. They claim sovereign authority. They claim that they're sovereign. You can't sue me. They claim no matter what they do. But no, the United States Supreme Court has ruled on this numerous times. The bottom line is, as long as they're acting within their proper authority, okay, they can't be sued in there. But once they step outside of their authority, they're open to lawsuit, jail, everything.
Well, they can't. They have to step off that bench. I mean, they can't.
Well, the problem is they have too much investment. First of all, what you have to realize, they had, just like all of us, myself included, maybe some of us had a little bit of a better education than others, maybe if we went to a private school or something like that. But other than that, even there were problems, okay? We never really got a proper education. We never really came to a proper understanding of who we are as a people. We never really learned the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, and all these things in school, even in high school. We didn't learn these things, okay? They didn't teach it to us. So these guys that become lawyers, they go through the same thing. They're as dumb as we are, okay? Dumb as a box of rocks, okay? They don't know nothing. And they come to these professors, and the professors, they know everything. And then they teach them all the evil that they teach. Greed is constantly part of the game. Remember, they're going to get 1/3 of everything you're going to get. If you're suing somebody, they get 1/3. I mean, that's outrageous to begin with. Their prices are outrageous. Okay, what they charge an hour is outrageous. They're not worth a nickel in my book. Okay,
Yeah.
they really are. Most lawyers are morons, in my opinion. I've listened to them. I've been in enough court cases. They're a bunch of morons. And you get some good lawyers here or there, but they're all stuck in the same thing. Okay, number one, they may be paid up to a $250,000, $250,000 to get their education. After all, I paid for that education. I know what I'm talking about. I got a certificate here. I've got my diploma. Whatever the case may be. So that's number one. Okay. So, and they're enticed by the money. They probably do a lot of that in school. They don't push hardly anything in the Constitution. They talk it as secondhand, and they tell you. I know I learned a lot from a lawyer who I was learned from, and he said that, look, when you why go to the Constitution? There's plenty of statutes. Just use the statutes. You see, he was brainwashed. Okay,
Yeah.
even though he did talk about the common law, he really didn't understand the common law. He didn't understand the real big problems and what they claim to be common law. He didn't understand that either. So anyway, the point is there's some ignorance there to begin with. Okay, there's that money thing. You're going to make a lot of money. You're going to be a lawyer. You spent a lot of money to become a lawyer. I got to make a lot of money to pay my bill off for school. So then you come out of school and you find you can't really be a lawyer until you connect with another lawyer, because they left so many blanks out, and they did that on purpose. So you're able to go to some place where another lawyer is a firm, a small firm, a good firm, a bullshit firm, whatever the case may be, okay, and you start to learn from that person. They come and they put their arm around you, and you get some more evil and more lust and more act for money and so on and so forth. And then they go into the courts, and if someone like me comes in and starts to reveal the truth, then they stop their ears. I'm sure you've read your Bible. People don't want to hear the truth. They stop their ears. Remember when they killed Stephen? They stopped their ears and killed him, They don't want to hear what he had to say no more. It was too truthful, But in any event, that's the same thing. Ain't no difference. Okay, ain't no difference. And so all of this is a problem. I remember a case we had in the beginning, way back, and we were really kind of ignorant to a lot, but we were getting some good knowledge and figuring things out. And I remember going up, to the desk where I'd sit with, Gerard was with me in this case, and they had the Attorney General there, okay, and he was putting all his stuff, his books and stuff, paperwork on his desk, on the table, and getting himself situated. But then he turned to us and he says, if you guys think you're going to get common law in this court, you have something coming. You're not going to get nothing like that. I forget the exact words, but something like that.
What was that again? Say that again, sir. I couldn't understand what you said.
Basically, he was saying that if you think you're going to get common law in this court, I forget what he said after that. You have another thing coming or something. You're not going to get it, is the point. Okay?
Yeah.
Because we had written our papers with common law. And so he understood that to begin with. And he was the Attorney General here of New York. And was going up against our case because we were suing I forget who we were suing. Let me think who we were suing. I forget who we were suing in that case. But in any event, greed plays a big role in this, okay? Because all evil plays on greed, okay? But look at all of these people in power and authority that we've elected. They seem to be all millionaires. I mean, it's all about greed, and they're making money, in insider trading and whatever evil they do, payoffs. There's all kinds of things going on. When a judge in a tax court, when a judge in a court that's supposed to be a court of law, is hired to be a judge in a room that is hired and run by the IRS or the Treasury, and he is paid a certain amount to do what he has to do as a judge, but then gets a big bonus if he gets a guilty at the end of the trial. Okay, well, that's evil too, isn't it? I mean, how much evil can you get? That's like paying one of the jurors off, hey, just hold out and I'll give you, $50,000 or whatever. They're crooks, but this is their life. They don't even think about the evil. They just think about all the things that they do in the back rooms, all the discussions they have. the preventing of evidence coming into the court to make sure someone is guilty. You know, you get some poor guy going into court, he's got criminal charges on him, and everybody is against him. Okay, the judge is against him, the jury is stacked, they're against him, prosecutors against him, and by the way, his lawyer's against him, and he sells them out. Hey, take 10 years. You know, they're going to give you 50 years. Take 10 years. You could do that. Yeah, whatever the case may be. You know, it's a horror story. So what else you got? Are you still there? I think I lost you. All right, I think they fell off the queue here. We'll take our next person here. Let's see. Next question. Tony from Pennsylvania. You got the mic.
Hello, how are you?
I'm doing okay.
I'm going for my 91st family reunion. I'm the president of it, and I'm going back. Our secretary had relinquished it, and nobody volunteered to be it. So I'm sitting here while you're talking. I'm reading back to our origins of 1744 when my 7th or 8th or 9th generation grandfather came here. So I'm like, sorry, I wasn't paying so much attention to your conversations tonight.
Mm-hmm. Well, do you have a question or a comment or something?
Yeah. Okay, so I did get to Jan, but a little bit too late. So with these 100,000 applicants for the ICE 10,000 positions, did anybody think of writing to Trump or whoever and saying, why not take the 90,000 and train them for our well-regulated militia? You know?
Well, they can't. It's not up to the federal government to create a militia. It's up to the people in the state to create the militias. Okay? And the federal government has control of the militias if he calls them into service wherever he calls them, just like any governor has the control to do the same. Okay?
Okay.
But you know, again, they have to come from the grassroots, from within, you know, and from within their states. They're state militias. As far as hiring, you know, I didn't think a lot. Well, look at what's her name?
Andy? Or no?
No, and she's in the intelligence that she's bringing a lot of stuff out. A lot
Christy
of
No? Is it her? Christy No?
She ran for president. I just can't think of her name right now. She's got that white stripe. She's a
oh my gosh. I can't think of her name. Yeah.
Oh, you know who I'm talking about.
Yeah,
okay.
I do.
She just came and announced, I just saw in the news today, that she's letting go 40% of the people in intelligence. Okay? And that's just the beginning. Okay, that's just within that one category. There's lots of other work. The CIA, I think, has to be shut down altogether and rebuilt if we need something, or maybe even call it something else. I don't know. But you know, people are being removed. Even the FBI, they're getting rid of a lot of people. All these people that are, you know, problematic and criminals. You know.
Well, I think you changed the Department of Defense to Department of War today.
Department of what?
The Department of Defense, I think Trump's changing the name to the Department of War.
Oh,
I'm not sure. Like, it's just weird of all the stuff that we hear and we're blown away with.
I haven't heard that, and I don't know why they would do that. In any event, the point is they are cleaning house, okay, and that's taking time, just like cleaning the judges, taking time. People, this is not just a problem in the federal government. This goes down to every single state in the union, every state. They're corrupt individuals on the legislators of every state. And a lot of the governors, you know, at least in the blue states particularly, maybe a few of them aren't, I really don't know, but generally speaking, you know, they're corrupt, okay? And we're talking millions of people that are involved in this conspiracy. I believe millions, at least hundreds of thousands and maybe a million or over, but lots of people that are involved in this conspiracy. You know, it's even into the news media, you know, they're involved in this conspiracy. I don't know how many of them are involved ignorantly. Look at every bar attorney is a minion of the New World Order, whether they know it or not, because they support the system that destroys the law. And now some of these lawyers don't know that, and it'll be a hard awakening for them. It is very hard for me to talk to lawyers to try to, convince them of who we are as a people. It's like talking to a brick wall.
Yeah, I went to Saturday. I went to 2 events. One up in it's up near Allentown, above Northampton County. A constitutional class by, I was going to ask you if you knew Pastor David Whitney from Maryland. And he went through it was just a quick 3-hour little seminar to get us interested in having him come back and do like a 12-week program. But he gave us a good question to ask any of these candidates that are out there. One is how well do you know the Constitution, our civil government? So I took that question to the picnic I went to down in Bucks County, Pennsylvania, and there was a woman running for judge, and I literally asked her that question. I said, how well do you know our Constitution? And she says, well, I believe that, I can't be partisan to this. And I said, well, wait a second, you're a judge. All people are equal. Why don't you know the Constitution? So I asked like 6 people there. One was running for judge, 2 were running for school board, the other 3 were running for like their township area. But I'm in Montgomery County, so I thought, well, this would be a good answer to these people. Each one of those people had no clue about the Constitution or the Bill of Rights.
That's right.
And so I said, so pretend you knocked on my door and I'm going to ask you, how well do you know the Constitution? And they all got offended by this. And this now was a Republican conservative group picnic. Mm-hmm. And I said to each one of them, you should not be running as a candidate if you don't know the Constitution. You're not going to be standing up for anybody. So
why we got to get rid of parties, by the way. Parties got to go. Look at our founding fathers were clear on this. Washington spent about 2/3 of his farewell, speech, address, talking about the problem with parties, and it'd be the destruction of this republic. And Jefferson had a different point of view. Both of them were valid. Both of them were true. He felt that the judges are going to be the destruction of our republic, and in either event, it still goes back to the Constitution. Okay, judges don't know the Constitution. Just listen into the Senate when they talk to these people that are coming up being brought up to become judges on a federal level. Listen to the conversations. They haven't got a clue. They still get past the Senate, and they still get approved as judges. How could this be? This is why, look, in the Declaration of Independence, it says that we have government by the consent of the people. And the people must consent. If the people are not willing to get involved, to consent to what our government is doing, and to consent on what our government is doing, you have to know what they're allowed to do and what they're not allowed to do, and that is involved particularly in the Constitution. You don't have to know too much more than that, okay? So if they don't know the Constitution, they don't belong being in those positions, whether they're a judge or a governor or whoever it is. They need to know the Constitution. And but parties, look at. I was given this, presentment to a group of people about a year ago, maybe, and one of the persons that I'd known in the Ron Paul movement and also in the Tea Party movement, and he was still active, but he got active in the I think the Constitutional Party or something like that. I don't think it's a Constitutional Party, but some kind of a libertarian type thing. And after he heard what I was talking about, which is, parties are destructive. We've got to get rid of them. The people need to step up and take care of business as the committeemen without a party affiliation. And that's what committees of safety are all about. That's what our founding fathers built, committees of safety. That's where they get the word committeeman. And then they statutarized the process of the committeeman, and they took control, and they placed party bosses in there to control them. You got to be one of the party. We got to work together. We got to, whatever. You got to pass this or not pass that. And they all go along with this stupidity. Okay, they're not serving the people, and then they go get this funny money from all of these special interest groups. So they're really working for them because they're taking the money and making sure legislation goes through to benefit them, but they're doing nothing for the people. How do they get away with this? I'm going to tell you how they get away with this. They get away with this because the people aren't paying attention and they're not interested in giving them a little bit of their time to exercise their unalienable right of government by consent. And that, the only one way you can do it. Only one way, and that's to be involved in your committee, in your community, through a committee of safety that works with the county, within the county, and with the sheriff to control the school boards, to control all of the other boards, the town boards, whoever's elected to, even for the board. It doesn't matter what it is. You're going to be elected to a position. They should be involved. They should be saying yay or nay, and when they have to watch them. And then they have to get rid of them through recall if they're not obeying the Constitution. And how can you know if they're obeying the Constitution if you don't know the Constitution?
I did share your information with the Northampton people. They said they heard of the NLA, but I said, please, I pass your information on anywhere I go now because I purchased like 500 constitutions, and I have my name, my email, and I have Montgomery County Committee of Safety on there, Pennsylvania, and then I have the NLA email address on there, or your website on there. So I hope people are signing up with you. I'm not getting anywhere with Montgomery County. I have my Committee of Safety meeting tomorrow. Last time, again, we only had like 4 people that showed up, and one woman was from Pike County.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive.
I'm not sure when, and I've gone to other grassroots meetings to try to spread the word, but everybody, again, is stuck on this damn election process.
Yeah.
All I hear everywhere is election. Trump's trying this or Trump's doing this. No, you got to do it down here because Bucks County is implementing or will be implementing their no rights for the children, for the parents, for the children to get vaccinated, and no medical or religious exceptions down here in Bucks County school districts. I'm not sure how they're doing it in Philadelphia, but once one county here in PA does something, it spreads like cancer to the rest of the counties. And it's bad. It's hard enough for me going to all these even to our township meetings, our school board meetings, even the committee meetings at the school board or the township. It's hard to get people motivated, and I don't want to lose hope because I know God's in me to push, but is there like some kind of like 3 or 4 or 5 questionnaire that you could put together that doesn't make me sound stupid when I'm talking to them?
Well, look, if you go out, let's see, are you coming in on a phone or how are you coming in? Are you on a browser or? Yeah, you can look like that headset on, right? You can see my screen, right?
I can see your screen. It says proof of claim.
Okay, so if you go go to the front page and you go to, hold on, let me move out of here. It looks like I'm signed out. Let me move my browser over and sign it back in. Every once in a while.
I send people to this thing too. Some people like Andy, a guy named Andy said he signed up, looked into you 2 or 3 weeks ago from Bucks County. I went down, I met with him, gave him a book, The Forming the General Assembly, and he just, I don't know, MIA. I every other 2 days now or 3 days I say, hey, by the way, did you get a chance to read like 10 minutes of the book? Nothing. I'm too busy. Oh, I'm away this weekend. Like,
that's the problem. That's the problem. People are complacent. Look at when people live a life, you have to you live life in many different ways.
okay.
You have a family, you have to put time into your family. You got if you're a Christian, you put time into your God, and of course, and then you keep the Sabbath. You got different things you have to do and make time for. Well, you have to make time to exercise your unalienable right of government by consent. Otherwise, we will not have a government that is consented by the people. Okay, that's the problem. And so, yeah, look, at this problem is rampant. It's unfortunate and it's sad. And I try to really push people as much as I can on these Monday night programs.
Yep.
I push them when I go out, and even when I go out and give a presentation somewhere, I push the people. I might ask them certain questions that if we could do this or we could do that, would you be willing to put your time into it? Then you get to the point where it's time to put the time into it because now you've laid it all out. And, people are half-assed into that and they don't show up. It's unfortunate. We don't have government by the majority, though. We have government by the majority that participates. So we don't need millions and millions of people to do this. We've got, I know I've done this math numerous times, I think it's 15,000, but we've got 3,000, we'll just say 3,000 counties, okay, because in some counties practically nobody lives in anyway. So 3,000 counties, and let's say you multiply that by 50 people, which is a lot of people, that's 150,000 people. We need 150,000 people to save this nation, okay? Maybe 100,000 people, what's the population of the United States without the illegals? I think it's something like 250 million, maybe. So the thing is, you got to find the people who are willing. That takes time. I'm building the Committee of Safety in my county with others, and it's taken time to get the people who are going to be active. We had people come a couple of meetings and they disappear. Look, we all have economic problems. We all have to work. We all have to do what we have to do to survive. They're not alone, so that's not a good excuse in my opinion. I'm struggling like heck to survive, just like anyone else, and but I'm still giving my time and my money into this program, into what we're doing here, because it has to be done. And people have got to come to understand the seriousness of this. You need to get your counties, committees of safety going. You need to put, and you have to have dues for that too, because there are things that are going to have to be done. We started off with $5 a month, maybe $10 a month. Occasionally, if we have to buy something, we had to buy banners and a few things. We threw in extra money, collectively to do that for some events. And but as you grow, you'll get more money because more people, and you don't really need a lot of money in running a committee of safety. But there is cost in different things, literature to be made up. A paper, and you have
well,
to
that's what I do with our, like, even at our little tiny local level. I'm going to have a big presentation here.
Okay, well, let me show you what we have here. If you go out to Start a Committee of Safety, and you come down to Handbook, Videos, and Tools.
Yep.
Now, I put this up only maybe, 8 months ago or so, roughly speaking. I put a lot more videos up here, which I didn't have before. When you used to go to this page, you'd come down and you'd start down around here, okay, where you'd get the information. Okay, well, what I did is I put these videos together for the sole purpose of presenting, okay, to the people as a presentation, okay, and I did this in a series because I was talking with a group. We did a series over a couple of different meetings. We came together, or you could do it over, on a Saturday or something, 4 hours or something. You get a lot of this done. But if you go through these videos, and these videos aren't long, they're about 20 minutes apiece. I believe we have the PowerPoints on these videos up here also. So if you wanted to do it live with a PowerPoint, you could do it live. You can listen to the video, see how it was done in the video, then you can use the PowerPoint, or you could play the video and then have a conversation and questions, Q&A after that, then move to the next one. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4.
Well, what I did do these. I did do these already. So what I did was go through like each one and I snapshot a picture of it and I stuck it in a binder. So this way I could like when I'm sitting down, I have like 5 or 10 minutes with somebody. I skim through that quicker than I can with, let me break down my computer, open up your website. And I do it that way too. But I just feel like people are just not, I don't know, like, I personally, I just don't know what's going on in people's minds right now, and it's up to God.
Well, I'll tell you what's going on. I'll tell you what's going on. There is economic problems for most of us. Okay, that's what's going on. I mean, used to be if you were making $20 an hour, you were making good money. You can't live on $20 an hour. Okay, and I mean, McDonald's might be paying 17 or 18 bucks an hour, and you go in and pay all that money for the hamburger. It's ridiculous. Okay, but the economy is going to be fixed eventually. But that is one of the problems. Number one. Number two, another problem is smartphones. Okay, people are so busy and lost on their stupid smartphones. They're getting dumber and dumber. Okay, they call them smartphones. I got a stupid phone, and that makes me smart. It's a regular flip phone. I want no part of it. If I was in business and really running, as a contractor, I would have used a smartphone if they had them back in my days and they were coming out around those time I was getting ready to retire. But they're good for business, but for the regular person, they spend too much time on that. Our children are absorbed by that. It's destroying them. They don't read no more. They tweet. I speak to people, after you go to 2 or 3 sentences, they're already gone. Their mind is lost because they're not paying attention. They're so used to the tweeting. It's really a serious problem. People need to really deal with this problem. Smartphones, no child should be able to take a phone to school. It's just destructive. Wow. It injures other children because they do really horrible things to each other, not even realizing the damage that they're doing. And parents give them their smartphones and these stupid games that they spend all day long in their games. They don't get, everybody getting fat. And we're a mess. America is a mess. I don't know. There's so many problems we need to fix. I mean, I'm glad to see Kennedy up there, and he's talking about exercising and getting better food and getting rid of a lot of this problems with the pharmaceutical companies and getting rid of the dyes and and a lot of other things I'm sure he's going to do. But people need to wake up, man. They need to wake up because we're in big, big trouble.
All right.
It's going to be here soon anyway. So
I am sharing your information. That's just as much as I bought your book. I donated to you.
Yeah, we definitely appreciate it. So
I'm just trying.
You should go through some of these things. Here, this Edgar, I don't know if you ever saw this Edgar County Watchdog video. I play this often. Okay, it's a 13-minute video. Okay, and what they're doing pretty much is what committees of safety should be doing. Okay, and if you just click on it, you play the video. If you right-click on it, you can save it.
Okay.
What was that?
Your county watchdog. Okay.
Yeah, this is really a really good because what these guys are doing is exactly what the committees of safety should be doing. And they're having people arrested in town boards and places where they're doing things privately, and they're bringing the sheriff in or the police department or whatever, the town police, and they're actually arresting people because they're breaking the law. These guys are lawyers now. They read the law, they're doing this, that, and the other thing, and the law says this, they're breaking the law, and they get them arrested. Okay, and they try to privatize their meetings, which has to be open to the public. Okay, so this is really a good one to show. The work that should be done.
That sounds good.
Listen
to this
conversation here. This is only a minute play off of this one.
Okay, I would do that after I'm done here tonight.
Copies if you want.
The North Carolina
KVA commissioners.
Now, my solution.
Hang on a second. Listen to this.
Essentially,
A watchdog group. The information given to the KVA commissioners by Mr. Donahue appears to be incorrect. I, as the president of Langlois Roofing Inc., relied on the information Mr. Donahue gave to be true and correct by the standards of the law. It is for that reason I tendered my resignation as a KVA commissioner effective immediately. I have copies if you want. Mike, I'm extremely disappointed. I'm talking to you now, just open discussion. Extremely disappointed that even if you did fight it and you lost nothing. it'd be a class 4 felony on me. I had no idea. I have a company that's 55 years old that is impeccable, but because of the information I have to step down or church immediately. I'd ask you to do the same thing.
Okay, anyway, that was leading into, all of these things that these two guys are doing, holding these people's feet to the fire on these different boards, okay? And boards, control town boards, village boards, all kinds of different controls on the political level, even the school boards, okay? But that's a good video to play. You should watch it and consider it, and then you could talk about it. But it helps to bring the people into what's going on. And we have lots of PowerPoints in here and different handouts. We just got a lot of information in here. You can print out handbooks, people go buy them or they can print them out right here online.
Yeah, I think I almost have every one of your books downloaded or printed out, or I purchased them. Okay. Sorry.
Okay, to the next caller now. Okay.
Sorry.
All right, thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll take our next caller. George, you got the mic. Go right ahead. What state you from, George?
Oh, hi. I'm from Florida. I live in the Panhandle.
Okay.
Can you hear me good?
We can hear you good.
Okay. I was looking at the presentment, and I was captured by the language they had there regarding the acknowledgement that, let me read it here. The balance of power, both houses are controlled by special interest groups. A little fast forward. The balance of power is the heart of our Constitution. To destroy that balance of power creates a whole new de facto Constitution and gives total power to special interest groups by reason of their bribes to both Congress and Senate via lobbying. And I'm very interested in that language and that what your plan is to do about it, because I came up with something and the question is as far as campaign finance reform is, we can't solve the problem until we start asking the right question. And the question we need to ask is, why do they need the money? I mean, what is the legitimate reason for them to take the money? And the answer is because politicians cannot afford to pay for their advertising budget out of their own pocket, so they have to go beg for it. And beggars are beholden. And so campaign advertising is like 90 or plus % of the cost of a campaign. Mm-hmm. And so it occurred to me that why don't we create a YouTube channel just for elections, put it under the post office for reasons we can discuss, and to protect free speech. And what that does is that provides a platform to give politicians free advertising for campaigns. Not only that, but it creates a social media environment where now the voters can connect directly to their representatives. And when a representative puts up an idea like about a law or anything else, the voters get to comment on it. And now the politicians have a direct connection to the voters, a direct reply, and a built-in poll that for people that want to participate, right? And basically, the way it works is you would just sit down at your phone or on your home, and you put your address in. Your whole ballot would show up. Everybody that would be on your that you could vote for would be there. First thing you'd see is a bio, so you know who these people are. Right? And the next thing is you choose the subjects that are important to you, whatever they are. You check the boxes, grab the popcorn, sit back, hit play, and you get to hear each person's position right out of their mouth, and then you can decide who to vote for. You
know that you'd be talking about thousands of people now that would have to be involved with that as far as giving their thoughts and why they're running for office and so on and so forth. But we do have a plan. But go ahead, finish your idea.
This thing is easily built, and not only would it work in the United States, it would work for elections around the world. This is something that you're thinking at large scale, absolutely, but it's not that difficult today to build these things.
Well, I don't want to poo-poo it. I mean, it's a good idea, and it should be done anyway. Well, we have a plan, and I'd like to just briefly explain the plan.
Sure.
kind of in a nutshell, because there's a lot involved with it. There's certain steps and process we have to get to before we could do the next step. And one of the steps that we have to eventually achieve, and we can't get to that step until we get enough committees of safety going, number one, and of course through those committees of safety working and being members of the NLA and supporting us. We ask people to give us $5 a month or more, but if we had we've got almost 12,000 members at this point, and if everybody was given $5 a month, boy, the money we'd have and the things we'd be able to do, forget about it. I mean, we'd be able to go professional. But a lot of people, they just don't give. So we're supported by very few people. But look, here's one of the things that's part of our plan. Okay, we do need to revamp our website at some point. I'd like to do it sooner than later, but we have to build it in a different way. But first of all, we have to get education going to the people that are involved. We don't have government by the majority. We have government by the majority that participate, and we have to get those people educated. And if you got 50 people working in every county, or 40 people, or whatever the case may be, about 150,000 across America, between 3,000 plus counties, okay, and they're being educated and understand the Constitution and start to do the work that they need to do by putting people into office. Now, right now, in order for someone, it starts off when a person wants to run for a position in office, they have to get support of the party. Why do they have to get support of a party? Because someone's got to walk their petitions to get them onto the ballot. Okay? And that's what the Republican Party and the Democratic Party is doing. They're putting people onto the ballot. So now we have the option to vote for the person, the person on the right, criminal on the right, or the criminal on the left. It doesn't matter. They're going to get the criminals in, and that's that. Okay, well, that's what the parties are doing. Now, I was a committeeman. I was elected committeeman on a few occasions, and it's just a horror story what's going on there. There's a high attrition rate. They can't hold people down, because once they get people involved into the parties, except for the ones that become the movers and the shakers and find a way to make money out of the thing, and there's a lot of people involved in those things that are making money out of that thing. You maybe have a towing business, tow truck, and you get the contract on the highway, the local here, or whatever the case may be. There's all kinds of things. Lawyers, they have these different things they get involved with the parties so that they can also expand their businesses. And you'll find a lot of these leaders within these parties, a lot of them are lawyers, okay? And but the thing is these people who are the committeemen, the statutory committeemen, that rob the people of their unalienable right of government by consent and put body bosses into them, they're the people that put the people on the ballots. So they have to go to these people and beg. And the selling of their soul starts there, okay, because they want them to run the party line. And we're going to help you get some money. We've got some special interest groups we're going to turn you on to, some money over here. The whole thing is a game. They want to get the right people into the office. And that's the corrupt process that has to go. George Washington spoke about this. He said it's going to destroy America. He laid the whole thing out, exactly what they're doing today. He laid it out in his day when he left office, George Washington. Okay, so that's the problem number one. This is the business of the people. If you get a committee of safety going into your county, and if you get 40, 50 people, and you start to get the sheriff, you bring the sheriff in. We have a plan on how to bring the sheriff in, maybe turn the sheriff if he's ignorant. Most of the sheriffs are, so we have to turn them. Maybe they're kind of doing things that they shouldn't be doing. We can help them realize they shouldn't be doing it. Maybe they'll become good people. If not, we get another sheriff. But you got to get the sheriff on board, so you work with the sheriff, because it's key to work with the sheriff when you go to deal with all these people. Okay, when the Republican, committeemen and the Democrat committeemen too, or any other party committeemen, when they start to find out what's going on with the county committees of safety, that we're doing the same thing and much, much more. You see, they're only political. Okay, we're committees of safety are far more than political. We not only control all of the different governments, from the town, the village, the county, the state, the cities, and the federal. We're not only involved with that, we're involved with dealing with the court system and bringing back the courts. We're dealing with the education problems, and we're dealing with bringing the militia together and organizing the state, in certain ways. And, there's a lot of detail, so I can't get into too much detail right now. But once we get that going, okay? Now, one of the things NLA, when we get to that, when we can start to get these committees of safety really rocking and rolling, okay, and people supporting NLA, then we may have enough money to be able to revamp our website into such a way that you would be able to come up on the website when you are, when the election time is coming up, you'd come onto the website and you'd find your district, okay? And it would be very easy. Your district could be found by using your address and your zip code. There is it's not an app, but it's a program that we can embed into the website where you put your zip code in, and then you put your actual physical address, and it'll pop out your election district. And in that election district, it'll then pop out everybody that's running for office on that particular election time, Then with that, working with the committees of safety, we're interviewing these people like the committeemen are doing, but we're doing it, and then we would then put them up on the website. If first of all, we'll support them and walk their papers as long as they take certain courses to learn the Constitution. Go to NLA, take the courses, get a certificate, show to us that you know the Constitution, and we're going to back you into the office. So then you walk the papers for that individual, okay? So we educate the person going into the office, okay? We're not going to support them unless they know the Constitution, willing to get educated, number one, okay? Then we give them a place on the website where they would come and give us, they could do it video or whatever, 500-word essay, whatever the case may be, tell about themselves and then refer people to their website, make their position why we should elect them. And so whenever you come in, you get the people that are involved. In other words, if your congressman is up for the run, or your senator's up for the run, or maybe it's just a county someone from the county that's being elected, or the town, or whatever. Whoever is involved in your election district, you get the information on that person, okay? And that is a way that they don't need money, because once you set that system up and you got this committees of safety moving it and educating the people in their county and getting this thing going, now we have a real thing going by the people, government by the consent of the people. They're selecting these people, walking their petitions to put them into the office, and let it be known once they get elected. Remember, we walked you into the office, we can take you out of office. You need to obey the Constitution. And then we monitor them. That's part of what the Committee of Safety does. What are these people doing? Okay? And if we have to, we give them a call and let them know, hey, you're doing things you shouldn't be doing. Straighten up or we're going to do a recall on you. You see, that's the power of the people. That's what we can do. That's what our founding fathers did, okay, to a degree anyway. But they set that system up. I didn't invent this wheel. This is something that I didn't invent. This is the committees of safety, how this thing works. So we can get a whole process where they don't need, okay, people don't need these big dollars to run for office, And when the president is running for president, then everybody would be getting that information when they go in to check in to see, what's going on in their election district, who's running for office. It's a presidential run at the same time, and you can hear what the president has, as well as on the news and so on and so forth. That's the other thing. It's the duty of the news, okay, which they don't do. It's the duty of the news of giving them free access and equal access, and that doesn't happen. But that is one of the jobs of news programs. But they're not doing it.
The problem with the news is that they've blended news with commentary.
Right, that is true. It's not news at all. Yes.
Now it's all soap opera. But anyway, so I have another question for you. What is the value in saving the post office as far as you're concerned? I don't know that I've given it much thought, but I think the post office is a necessity. It's privatized right now. I don't know that you realize it. That's why it costs 80 cents for a letter, number one. But I remember when mailing a letter was 2 cents. Yeah. Okay. Well, the thing is that the post office is necessary to the republic because
right.
The government is bound to protect free speech. Even the Supreme Court said that. And the private organizations, like every place where we have all our emails today, are all on private servers. Well, now they have every right in the world to read everything we write, and we can't stop them. But
well, they may have the right because they gave themselves the right somehow, but they don't have the right because it's still breaking an entry and it's still digging into your private conversation.
My point being that because it's a private agreement, we don't have any control over it. But if we put the email on the post office, now everybody's got the wrong idea about the post office. They're not letter carriers. They're actually they are the bulwark of protecting free speech and privacy and banking, and that's the way the original post office was set up. There is a move to protect the post office. I'll send you a link to the email questions email. Would that be a good place to send it?
Send it to mail, MAIL at nationallibertyalliance.org. MAIL at nationallibertyalliance.org. My thinking on this, again, they've privatized even though I guess the buildings and everything is still government owned, but basically they've contracted out the work the way I understand it. Okay, and it's really run by private corporations, and that should not be. There should be no profit making here to begin with. Okay, it's a service to the people for the people. It should be run by the government. Unfortunately, the government doesn't really know how to run business. Trump knows how to run business, and I do believe.
Actually, that's a fallacy. The government can learn how to run a business.
That's right. That's what I'm saying.
They wanted to sabotage this whole thing. So.
Well, I wanted to get to that point. That's exactly right. They should be able to do this. Okay. Right now they don't because they don't want to. Number one, and we got to look at Trump has proven we've been ruled by a bunch of morons and really people who are
That's right.
enemies of the state and of the people.
I think your idea about how to deal with the campaign advertising is very similar to mine. Mine's a little more advanced.
Well, the videos are important too because you see they come on and put a video on. And of course, if you put a video up on a website and they put it up there, it would be connected either to Rumble or to YouTube, so it would be out there for the whole public to see anyway.
Well, actually, no. This would be on again Rumble, YouTube. They're all private platforms.
That's true.
So that they can all be censored. This would be a platform that's under the U.S. Post Office. That way, it cannot be censored. Okay.
Well, that if they can set something up like that, of course. But until then, we'd have to use what services we have. To run videos directly off the website is a very expensive ordeal. There's broadband involved, and
I understand all that. Now, here's the thing, right? What I'm looking at is a catalyst to actually motivate. And there's a lot to it. It's a big plan. But the thing is this, right, is that we can actually force the issue by and I've already started it, by sending a letter to Trump to say, hey, make this a major platform for the midterm elections to get what I call it VoteTube, okay? To make, and here's what we want candidates who are going to give us a written contract that they're going to basically make VoteTube the priority, get it done, okay? We can get into that detail.
Well, and look, this is why the committees of safety are important, because the committee of safety are the people who are supposed to be monitoring. You look at when you go to a committee, when you create a committee of safety, you have subcommittees. You have the political process committee, okay? You have the judicial committee. You have the educational committee. You have the militia committee, and many other committees that come and go, or maybe become permanent as needed within your county for whatever problems are going on, to be monitored, whatever the case may be, okay? But the thing is this, in the political committee, then we've got people that are elected that is within the election districts within that county, okay? And we want to keep an eye on these people. We want to check on their work, what they're doing, and how are they voting if they're legislators, how are they voting, and so on and so forth. And when they don't do the right thing and they're not representing the people somehow, you see, if you get rid of political parties, at that point in time, what's going to fall apart is first of all, the party unity, where they vote in blocks instead of individually. They should be there for the people of their constituency, and they should be voting according to that. But once you get rid of the political parties, political parties have got to go in order to save this republic. But the thing is once you get rid of the political parties, also the funny money goes too, because that's all connected.
Well, the thing is that the funny money. Well, yeah, that's a whole nother conversation.
But if anybody is, first of all, to take the money from these people, they go out to Washington, they get all this money, and as far as I'm concerned, it's called a bribe or a payoff. That should be unlawful. It should be illegal. These people should go to jail.
Well,
period.
The thing is, no, the reason why they get away with it is because they have a valid excuse.
Right, that's why we got to get rid of that excuse.
Right.
They don't need money to run for office. You get everything for free. People, look at, people go to vote, okay? And I'm guilty of this to make a degree myself, okay? But you go to vote, there's so many people to vote, you just vote the Republican line or this line or that line, you just get so lost in this whole thing. And you don't have any clue on what's in the minds of these people, who they are, what they represent, how they think, or anything about them, okay? But if you have a website, where people can go to, put in their zip code, okay, and they get their next four digits, the zip plus 4. And if they don't know the 4, that's where you put your address in. It'll give you the 4. Once you know your zip plus 4, then they got your election district, and you know everybody that's running. You can look into these people. You could be done in synopsis. These people can write their own synopsis. Look, you're running for office. Give us your one paragraph, 40 words or whatever the case may be. Just a synopsis, and then give us something longer than that. If they want more information, they click on that link and they get a whole page of information. And if they want more, they click on a link to go to your website, which is their website. But the thing is now you have an educated voter. But an educated voter needs to be woken up. They need to be educated to begin with. They need to be educated on the necessity of becoming part of getting involved in government by consent, responding to when they're called for a jury, a grand jury, or to be on a petit jury, or they need to be involved in their community. They need to know the Constitution. If you don't know the Constitution, how can you know if they're breaking the law? If a judge, we had someone we were talking earlier, the judge that didn't know the Constitution. Well, if they're being a judge and didn't know the Constitution, how can they make any ruling? What's wrong with these people? So, and their ruling should only be in equity anyway. It has nothing to do with law, with we the people. But I'll give you a minute or two. We do have one other person, and we could pick this conversation up next week again if you want. But go ahead, I'll give you final word. Go ahead.
Just one other question. Everybody thinks that Donald Trump is going to be the answer. What if he's not? And that's a whole other conversation. But the big question is, at what point do you realize in your own mind you say, well, you know what, Donald Trump's not the answer. And what is the plan if that's the case?
Donald Trump is only part of the answer. He's not the full answer. The people are the answer.
The people are the answer. That's right.
And we haven't had the ability to be able to do anything, to pick ourselves back up, to get rid of all these evil people and take control. We haven't been able to do that. We have a type of a Cyrus. I don't know if you're familiar with King Cyrus, but we have a type of a Cyrus that has been risen, in my opinion, by God for the purpose of bringing law and order back to the United States ultimately, okay? Because, this is the springboard for the cross to get the message out. The incarnation. But nevertheless, Trump is that guy. He's uniquely qualified. You're just uniquely qualified in so many different ways and so many different levels. And he was able to muster together a good administration this time. I believe them. All serious people really are sick and tired. They think like us. They want to end this crap. They want to get rid of the corruption. And everything is just falling in place. It's the right timing, in my opinion. But it's up to the people to receive the power that Trump says he is given. Trump said this in the beginning. He's made this numerous times. I was not elected to take power. I was elected to take power and give it back to the people. Okay? And I believe him. I do believe him. He's a man of integrity, no doubt about that. He's impeccable. Look at all of the investigation they did on this guy. They got nothing. Okay, absolutely nothing. This guy is squeaky clean, okay? He's a man of his word, and he is accomplishing his goals, and it's important to him to accomplish those goals. He really wants to make America great. He's built a one heck of a business for himself, and his family, and he wants to do the same thing for the United States. He wants to make them. I believe. I'm sold on it.
Yeah, but you realize how hard he's pushing AI too. So there's two sides.
Well, that's a weakness of really realization of what's going on. Like I said, the genie's out of the bottle. I don't know that we can survive AI. I think that if you would, I'll tell you what I think. I think AI is going to destroy us within the next 20 years if God doesn't come back.
Yeah, there you go. Can I just make sure I get that email again? It's mail.
Yeah, just mail, MAIL. That's all at nationallibertyalliance.org.
I got it. Good. All right, I will send you a couple things, and my name's George, and I hope that I'll try to make it brief. But yeah, thanks, John. Have a great day.
All right, last caller. We're going to spend a few more minutes, Brett, and we'll have to pick up whatever if it's long next week. But Brett, you got the mic.
Yes. First, before I start, I was wondering how do I get to that page that you're on right now with with the presentments?
Oh yeah, look at everybody should read in these papers. These are the papers we've written to the United States Supreme Court, to the federal judiciary, presentment to the president, presentment to President Trump and AG Bondi, and the redress of grievances in open natural law courts.
How do you get to that page?
Well, it's on the front page right here. Welcome page.
Right there. Welcome. Okay.
So if you come down, here it is. It's right here. Welcome
page. Okay. Last week when I mentioned you about a situation where agents just busted in my house and didn't leave me with any information as to what went on. I came across a case in Wisconsin here, and it was U.S. versus Petit, and I didn't get a chance. I just recently saw that, but I didn't get a chance to read it. But so far it falls under. I'm falling underneath that case, and I was wondering, by being statutory, how would I apply that?
Well, you could use the U.S. Supreme Court decisions in any court of law, okay? I do, and I'll continue to do that. U.S. versus Williams, a real powerful case. Marbury versus Madison, a very powerful case. It empowers the people. It's a decision of the United States Supreme Court, and we've given them the ability to make these certain decisions, and they're supposed to be championing the common law. The older the cases, the more the championing we see in the common law. Right now things have been looking pretty good with what the Supreme Court has been doing in the past couple of years. So. But yeah, cases are good if you to use. But the problem is you got to make sure in your case that you're not there for them to bring in what's called comity, COMITY, and that's what they call common law. They call common law, which is comity, COMITY, which is trial court decisions, which is no decisions at all. They're worthless. They mean nothing. You look at these trial court decisions, I mean, they're all over the place. There's no consistency at all. And then these judges think that they can make a ruling off of this because this side brings in these cases, that side brings in that cases, and they bring in more this case and that. I mean, who cares? I could find a case to support me on anything. Well, especially if you're evil, you can find a lot of cases. But the thing is, you got to be careful with that. Only use the Supreme Court rulings, and I use them only to make a point, usually to define something. The Supreme Court defines common law. Black's Law Dictionary defines common law. Beaubier's dictionary defines common law. I really don't care what the trial courts have to say, and I would never even quote them. Because they have nothing to do anyway with common law anyway. They're all equity courts. You see, the only court that bears both side law and equity is the United States Supreme Court. And that has to be limited to a minimum as far as protecting the individual and their rights. But they don't do that very well.
So is equity dealing with like any of trust law or anything?
Equity deals with anything commercial or anything with a government agency. You know, there are 57 codes on the federal level. Okay, USC 3, for instance, is equity law that controls the power and the authority of the president. Okay, the president has to act within that authority. And this president has some good lawyers around him that really are helping him to act within that authority. But equity, if you work for a government agency, you're controlled by equity. An elected individual working for the government, you're controlled under equity law. There's laws to control you. There's, statutes and regulations and whatever the case may be. Okay, if you are in the federal level, if you're operating in anything interstate commercial activity, well, there is the statutes that control you. There is, you're controlled by equity, which is legislative law. And on the state level is the same way. You know, working for the state or you work in any commercial activity, you're controlled by that. Now, outside of that is the people. We're not controlled by any of it. Although they have controlled us, they call it civil law, and they've been controlling us under that for quite some time now, which is unlawful. It's repugnant. But that's not law at all. That's repugnant. It's null and void, as far as but it's in court.
Okay, so when, again, dealing with a warrant, the agent said that they don't have to show a warrant. They just stated that they have the right to be there. Now,
lie from hell. Lie from hell.
Sorry.
That's a lie from hell. I'd sue that person. If they executed a warrant without showing me a wet ink warrant with an signed affidavit, it has to be attached also. If you don't have those two things, they need to go away. And if they don't go away and they push their way in, I'd be suing.
Okay, and they're still looking for, they keep pushing the date out, extending 60 and 30 days, waiting for a warrant or trying to find one. Meanwhile,
so they don't have a warrant and they're looking for a warrant and they're threatening you with a warrant. Is that the case?
They don't have a warrant. They're trying to get a warrant, but the whole action that they committed, the whole act was 4 months ago.
All right, well, what they're doing is rattling your cage because, look, if they were going to get a warrant and they could get a warrant, they're not going to let you know about it. They're going to get a warrant and, surprise, that's what they're going to do, okay? But they're not doing that, so they're intimidating you. And I don't know whether they'll ever get their warrant, but they're intimidating you, and that in itself is a crime too.
But okay, and my what they did, they came in and they took a family member of mine from the house under this supposed warrant, and they've just been holding them for
Doesn't your family member have a lawyer?
I'm sorry?
Does your family member have a lawyer?
Just a public defender who
That's fine. They're a lawyer. I don't know how close the family member is. I don't understand the relationship, but it doesn't matter. The bottom line is the person in jail or someone else in the family, if given the authority, depending, you may already have the authority, although, in any event, it's a matter of just asking your lawyer, hey, let me see a copy of the warrant. You don't have a copy of the warrant? You see, that's going to be a problem now, isn't it?
Okay.
The lawyer should have a copy of that warrant.
Okay, and would I have to submit a FOIA request for that, or?
No, you go see the lawyer and say, I want a copy of the warrant. Or whoever, the family member that's in jail should do that.
Right, okay.
If it was my spouse, I have a right. If it was one of my children, I have a right. I can pursue it. But unfortunately, they don't recognize the rights, okay? So, you might have to get power of attorney to have that right.
Okay. And so not only that case that I was looking at, it said I would be considered as a third party because that my family member didn't live with me or didn't live, but was there. And then they just came in under whatever.
But if they said that they have a warrant and they don't have a warrant, they lie. If they had reasonable cause to come in, that's a different story, but then even with that, they have to show reasonable cause. In other words, look at it. If the police came to your house and knocking on the door because they were called there for some kind of a problem, and they heard someone screaming or they heard a gunshot, well, they have every right to break the door down and go in and deal with that problem. That's probable cause.
So, as a third party, what would that be called? Would that be is that a tort claim or?
You're looking to yourself as the third party?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if you can connect yourself to the case, but if you want information, you can become a power of attorney of the individual that's in jail. I don't know what relationship of that individual in jail.
Okay. Well, it would be my son.
Okay. Well, and they're older. They're obviously over 18, though, right?
Correct.
Okay, so he's got he's got his own rights for himself. In order for you to go to the lawyer to get that information, you'd have to get a power of attorney from your son. And a power of attorney is a pretty simple form. You can find it online and just go out and get an affidavit done, and then you could serve it on to the lawyer and say, I want to see the warrant.
Okay, and the affidavit in my own words for me or on behalf of him?
No, he's got to fill out an affidavit giving you power of attorney. There's forms out there. You can find forms online, affidavit of, for power of attorney, which is an affidavit form. Okay, he needs to fill out and swear to it, and, sign before a notary or a judge, and then you get that paper, and then you go you can show the original, but you serve a copy to the lawyer and say, I want to know everything about the case, what's going on. But, okay. Your son should be able to just tell a lawyer, just talk to my father. I want him to be able to sign a release, everything to you also. That's another way to do it. And that lawyer may say, well, okay, he may produce the power of attorney to give it to his son. I don't know, however they want to do it.
Okay.
All right, I got to go.
I'm sorry?
We're really late. Got to go. We're way over time.
Okay.
We're going to close down for now, and Lord willing, we'll see everybody next Wednesday. Thanks for coming.
Thank you, John.
Good night. You're welcome. Thank you.